Welcome to the Full Nielsen. Today I'm going to be comparing the Vortex Razor HD Gen 2 to the Vortex Razor AMG rifle scope. Vortex Razor HD Gen 2 is 4.5 to 27 power with a 54 or 56 millimeter objective lens. I don't remember off the top of my head. I think it's 56. It has a 34 millimeter main tube. The Vortex Razor HD Gen 2 is a 6 to 24 power rifle scope, and it has a 30 millimeter main tube. Now, one of the reasons I wanted to do this comparison is because when I was in the market for a rifle scope for long range shooting, these were two that I was heavily considering. One of the biggest reasons why, of course, is because Vortex's warranty makes it to where if I drop $2,400 on a rifle scope and then I have an accident, you know, I don't have a problem there. It would probably make me sick to my stomach to be dragging around a rifle scope that was $2,000-$3,000 and have an accident hunting or whatever, and I'm out $2,000 or $3,000 on my rifle scope. So that's one of the reasons I heavily consider Vortex's stuff all the time. There are plenty of other companies that make great rifle scopes. You guys know that. I've reviewed several of them. I just seem to go with them a lot of the time for the reason I stated. I'm one of those people that does not buy a rifle scope and then leave it in the safe. I don't care if I spend $2,000, $3,000 on a rifle scope, it's going to get used and abused. I'm probably going to use it to the point that it fails, and knowing that, you know, having a company that's going to stand behind it goes a long way for me. So these two scopes, how they stack up to each other. The Razor HD, as far as optical quality is concerned, there's not enough of a difference that I think most people would say, wow, this one's better than that one. I would say optical quality wise, it's pretty much a tie. I've heard some people say that they think the AMG looks a little better. It might. What I have noticed is that if I were looking, let's say on 14 power, the AMG may look slightly brighter, and I mean slightly, like the color tone or whatever seems to be a little bit brighter, a little bit clearer, and I mean almost imperceivable. But what it has in that area, it somewhat loses when it comes to running it on the higher magnification end. It only goes to 24, that goes to 27, but if I put both these on 24 power, the eye box, in terms of maintaining a nice full sight picture, seems to be a little bit better on the Razor HD Gen 2. Now, I guess that begs the question of why would somebody want to own, you know, the Razor AMG over the Gen 2 Razor? And really, the only reason I can think of is weight. That's the biggest reason. What are you going to be using the rifle scope for? The Razor HD Gen 2 has more adjustment than the AMG. It also, the eye box, I think, is a little more forgiving. It has a wider magnification range, but it's heavy. If you are a PRS shooter or somebody that could care less about weight and would just as soon have a rifle that weighs 20 pounds or 16, 18 pounds, PRS rifles are just getting heavier and heavier and heavier. And it really just goes to show the big difference between PRS shooting and other applications. I have this discussion with people all the time who have a difficult time wrapping their head around it, and they want to take a PRS rifle hunting. They're taking rifles that are designed to have super low recoil. They're not very small, or they're not very big bullets. They don't have a tremendous amount of energy, and then they want to go out and, shoot big game like elk or moose or stuff like that with this PRS rifles. And they want to, I'll hike all over the mountains and everything with my PRS rifle. You really need the right tool for the job. And if you're going to be hunting, you would be better off, in my opinion, with a standard cheapo, plain Jane sporter barrel hunting rifle that weighs almost nothing that you can hike all day long with than you would be with a PRS rifle. Now, there's a lot of people who want the ability to kind of walk both those lines of being able to have a long-range precision rifle, but also have it be relatively lightweight. That's where something like this Christensen Arms really comes into its own, because that rifle with an optic and everything is probably 10 pounds, maybe 11 pounds, somewhere in that range, like 10, 11 pounds with an optic, everything, with that AMG. That's really where the AMG comes into its own against the Gen 2 Razor. if you are going to be carrying your rifle, like hiking all over the place and stuff like that, hunting, don't get the Razor HD Gen 2. That scope probably weighs more than a pound more. I don't know if it's actually a pound. I could look it up, but I can tell you from actually like using both of them on rifles and in terms of the balance and everything and what it does to the rifle, it makes a significant difference. It is way heavier. I would never consider running that on a rifle that I was going to be carrying in the field. Now, if you're going to have it in your truck and just plan on spotting an animal, or in a UTV, and it's like, I'm not carrying it, a horse is carrying it, or my truck's carrying it, or UTV, or a four-wheeler, all I've got to do is get off, get set up, and shoot, well, then the weight's not going to matter. But if you're doing the type of hunting where you're hiking around a lot, which I do some of that, and I do some of, where you're driving around, stopping in areas, glassing, trying to spot something, and then the hike begins once you spot something several miles away. There's pretty much always hiking involved with what I'm doing. But you're going to want a Razor AMG. You're basically getting all of the same quality in terms of optical quality, everything that the Gen 2 Razor has. iBox is not quite as forgiving, but it's not noticeable enough that it's a problem. And you're getting all of that in a package that is way lighter weight. And for field use, this scope is just, it would be one of my #1 recommendations, just because of the quality that it has in terms of glass quality and the features and the turrets and everything balanced out with the weight. Now, in terms of other differences, the turrets on this one has a little bit different reticle, before I talk about the turrets, than that one. Both of these are in MRAD. This has the EBR 7C7 something, and that has the EBR, I can't remember what it is, 2C, EBR 4C. Anyway, the reticles are slightly different. Not enough that it makes a difference. In fact, when you look through them, they are very similar. There are a few differences, but they are very similar. You're not going to look at one and then look at the other and say, oh, I like the reticle way better on this one than that one. There's just not enough of a difference between the reticles for it to hardly even be noteworthy, but they have made some minor changes to the reticle and the AMG. Turrets. As I mentioned, the Razor HD Gen 2 has more elevation, so if you're doing like extreme long range shooting, and I mean like beyond 2,000 yards, maybe you could make use of that extra elevation. Now they're coming out with things to where it really doesn't matter as much how much elevation adjustment the scope has, because they have things like the Charlie Tack or whatever it's called, all that stuff that mounts to your rifle scope, so you can come up with better ways to solve that elevation problem. But that has a little more elevation adjustment. I want to say it's around, I believe about 110 MOA worth of adjustment, 105, somewhere in that range. Of course, that's in mils, but most people have a better idea what that means in MOA. This one is, I think 90 MOA, 90 to 100 MOA worth of adjustment, something like that. The turrets on this feel better than the turrets on the Razor HD Gen 2. If you listen, it's like the D10 and stuff is much smoother. This one is like, anyway, you can probably hear the difference some. The difference, or the Razor HD Gen 2, it takes a little bit. I don't know if I'd say it takes, yeah, I think it takes a little more to switch between the D10s. Anyway, they just have a different feel to them. I probably prefer the feel on the AMG over the HD Gen 2, but again, doesn't really matter. Both of them have the LTEC turrets, which you pull up and push down to lock into place. Both of them have zero stops. Both have illumination, which illuminates the entire reticle. Yeah, so other than that, there's not a lot of differences between them. Really, it just comes down to what's your application. Are you going to be using it in the field, or are you going to be using it, PRS shooting or something where you're not necessarily having to carry it a real long ways? I can tell you that for me personally, where I do not shoot in PRS matches, I'm getting away from heavy stuff. I started out, build my first precision rifle that was 17 pounds or so with Masterpiece Arms chassis. And that whole setup was so heavy it wasn't even legal for me to hunt with in the state of Idaho, which is a deal breaker for me. It's like, I enjoy target shooting, but I want to be able to take it out and actually use it for hunting and stuff like that as well. And it was so heavy I couldn't do that. So I've since gotten rid of that. I have a few Howa Bravos, which are quite a bit lighter because the chassis knocks off about 2 pounds. But this is probably going to be my main long-range hunting gun, which is this Christensen Arms Modern Precision Rifle. It with optics and everything's about 11 pounds. If I'm going to be closer and I'm going to be hiking all over the place, I have a semi-auto 308. I think I've done some videos on. But I had the barrel turned down to it. It was a DPMS Gen 2 and 308. The rifle weighed with a bull barrel was really heavy, 10 pounds, 11 pounds. The big thing for me isn't the overall weight, it's the balance of the rifle, where the weight's at. And when it's all in the barrel, it makes it difficult to shoot freehand well. If you're shooting off a bipod or rest, none of that matters. But anyway, that 308 was a bull barrel, 24-inch bull barrel, something like that, and I had it turned down to the thinnest contour that they could turn it. And then I also had it shortened. I shortened it to 18 inches, 18 and a half inches. That gun now, with a semi-automatic 308, weighs under 7 pounds with no optics, and with optics and everything is probably 8.5 pounds. So if I need a really pretty lightweight rifle that I'm going to be hiking all over, that I can shoot freehand with and everything really well, that's the rifle I use. The balance of it's tremendous, all that type of stuff. I could pretty sure shoot freehand quite well with this rifle as well. But if I'm going to be hiking around and actually scaring an animal out, like I'm hiking through an eye drop or something like that, knowing that there are going to be some animals that are going to get flushed out, I'd much rather have that rifle. Anyway, so that was kind of getting sidetracked there. But in terms of these rifle scopes, comes down to what you're going to be doing with them. If you're using them in the field, if you're going to have to be carrying them all, go with the AMG. If you're using it for PRS matches, just target shooting, stuff like that, go with the Razor HD Gen 2. It's that simple in my mind. I would never want to carry that thing around on a hunt. I don't think I ever have since I've owned it. There's just a lot better scopes for that purpose. But for, I think, the primary purpose for which it was designed, which is more competition shooting, PRS shooting, long range stuff, it's an excellent rifle scope. So there you go. That concludes my comparison of the Razor HD Gen 2 and the Vortex AMG. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave those in the comment section below. Thank you for watching and have a nice day.